When children are hearing about divorce, I think there are many variables that can affect how they do in the long term, short term and the long term. And so when we're looking at some of those variables, one can think of good resources, sort of the positive variables. And those can be divided into different categories, like individual categories. Things like the child's temperament or personality. Is this a more sensitive child who's maybe more likely to take this personally and think that they are somehow responsible? That could lead the child to a negative attribution about the divorce. Oh my goodness, my parents are getting divorced because it's my fault somehow. Some children are just naturally more resilient and are more confident and aren't going to attribute in the same way. And so it really just depends from individual to individual. You know your child, and so you can guess how they're going to respond, and you can come up with the antidote to that. If you think the child's sensitive and is likely to think that it's to do with them, then you can go out of your way to explain that that's not the case. The other variables to consider are family factors, and that would be the parents' well-being. Are the parents a step ahead of the children emotionally in terms of dealing with the grief and loss that divorce can bring? They don't need to be healed all the way. I don't think that's possible, but certainly, and they certainly can grieve alongside the children. But of course, they need to be a step ahead and a little more resilient so that they can encourage and help the children to feel comforted when the children are hurting. So parents' emotional well-being, and then the structure of the family home. If the home is pretty stable and is structured, if not too much is going to be changing in terms of moving to a different part of town, changing homes, changing schools, that all plays a role in terms of how safe and secure children feel because their environment is stable. And then lastly, the level of conflict between the parents. If the parents are still able to be around, are able to co-parent, even have a collaborative divorce, that's going to infuse less tension into the child's life. And then you also have the extended family and the community factors. Does the child have other positive role models that they can go to, loving adults who can come and spend time with them, pay attention to them, help them through the grieving process? And then there are many communities that have wonderful resources like support groups. In fact, even some of the schools have support groups for children. So the more resources there are, the more children are likely to come out of this with better well-being.